to order the October 13th, 2015 meeting of the Traffic Review Advisory Board. Good afternoon and welcome. The Traffic Review Advisory Board reviews items of interest regarding parking and traffic within the city of Oshkosh. We are an advisory board and our favorable recommendations today will go before the Oshkosh Common Council. The council can accept or reject any recommendation from this board. If the board does not recommend an item and you don't agree with our decision, you may discuss the item with any common council member, and the council member may sponsor a new ordinance regarding the item. All items recommended by this board require 2 readings before the common council. The first reading will take place on Tuesday, October 27th, 2015 at 6 p.m. and you will be allowed to comment on the item at that time, though the council will take no action. On Tuesday, November 10th, 2015, at 6 p.m., the item will be on a second reading, at which time the council will take action. You will again be allowed to speak to the item. For this afternoon's meeting, I will read each agenda item, at which time if you would like to speak, please step up to the podium and give your name and address. I do ask that you keep your comments pertinent to the agenda item you are speaking to. The item will then come back to the board for discussion and action. First order of business is approval of last month's minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. New business, item 1, request for no parking on Dickinson Ave, south side, from 133 feet east of Maricopa Drive to 240 feet east of Maricopa Drive. The current condition is unrestricted parking.
So this is a request from Poms Tire. Their loading dock is directly across from this area, and they're having a problem with their semis being able to get in and out of the dock safely. They said there's not always a car parked there, but when there is, they're having some issues. And I don't know if some of it's, there's a lot of traffic in that area for they're constructing the detention basin kind of over in that area, so there's a lot of traffic there right now. But so they're only asking for the restriction for approximately a little over 100 feet, and it looks like there is parking available on the same side of the street, east and west of the proposed no parking area across from their dock, and there's also room for a couple of cars on the other side of the street as well. Anyone here to speak on that one? Or no? Okay, I can pull it up if we want to look at it. Okay.
My name is Paula Harrington. I am representing Poms Tire Service at 2056 Dickinson Ave in Oshkosh, and we're just asking to make the area stated a no parking zone, so we're able to conduct our daily business. Right now, when there's cars parked in that area, we're not able to pull trailers in and out of our dock and conduct our business. We had a couple vehicles right now with the retention pond that's being put in. We have a lot of traffic going back and forth, and I think maybe that's the reason for the parking, but when there is a vehicle parked there, it pretty much restricts our business, and we're not able to move anything in and out.
Thank you. Anybody got anything?
The only question I have, Jim, when you get a second. This is a business request. Are you looking at, like, no parking from, say, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., or are you looking at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
I was just going to make it no parking.
Okay.
The reason to do that is it's a little less confusing.
Okay.
Sometimes when we do the certain times, it gets a little confusing because then it's harder to enforce as well. I don't know if when are your trucks loading or unloading?
Okay, so it's kind of all, it could be any time. Okay. I just curious more than anything because there are a couple other businesses in that area, and since none of them are here, they must not have a concern.
No.
So, okay, yeah, that makes it easier if we do it that way.
Anybody else got anything? Call a roll, please.
Herman?
Aye.
Szynski?
Aye.
Schuster?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Haas?
Aye.
Carried.
Okay, item 2, a request for yield signs on Fairfax Street at Rebecca Run. The current condition is uncontrolled intersection.
Okay, this is a request from, I got calls from a few different citizens on this. There was a crash in the neighborhood at this intersection with injuries on September 24th. The citizens that live in that area are reporting a high number of crashes and close calls at the intersection, and they're requesting yield signs. I did some research on that. First of all, the warrants from the manual and uniform traffic control devices lists the criteria that are required for a yield sign, and those would be 3 or more right-angle accidents in a 24-month period, or 5 or more right-angle accidents in a 36-month period, 1,500 or more vehicles per day, and in an adequate sight distance. These are some of the criteria that MUTCD uses, and these are the criteria that the city has used for an initial screening for whether it makes sense to put a yield sign in. So looking at this intersection in the crash history, there was this one crash this year. There were 2 in 2013 and 1 in 2009. The recent crash was caused by 2 drivers entering the intersection. Neither one of them slowed down or yielded, so it was a little more, that's where the injuries resulted. In 2013, one of the crashes in May was cited as speed too fast for conditions and a failure to yield. The second 2013 crash was in December, and it was cited as a failure to yield as well as a vehicle unsafely passing on the right. And then the 2009 crash was a failure to yield. So looking at the warrants, there is a slight safety issue here. The 3 accidents since 2013 are over a 28-month period, and that is close to the warrant for 3 or more right-angle accidents in a 24-month period. It's arguable if the number of accidents in that time frame is close enough to the warrant to install yield signs or not. I guess for an intersection with that low traffic volume, I would say that's a pretty high accident count. There's about 200 vehicles entering the intersection daily. That count's a couple years old, but it's still pretty similar. The sight distance appears to be okay. So if we create a yield-controlled intersection, it would clarify which vehicle has the right-of-way and may potentially improve safety. So I think that in my opinion, it's close enough to the accident warrant to warrant having the yield sign. There are yield signs at the intersection with Pheasant Creek and Rebecca Run, which is a block over. So my guess is people are using Rebecca Run to get out onto Oakwood and kind of going through the neighborhood that way. Some of them instead of going up Pheasant Creek to get to 9th.
Do we have anybody that wants to speak to this from the neighborhood? No? Okay. Any discussion amongst the board?
I've actually seen, or almost seen, a few numerouses at that intersection, and quite honestly, I've never been a big fan of the 4-way uncontrolled intersection. I think that's a recipe for disaster. I think we should, would we live in the utopia, we'd do away with all of them. But unfortunately, we can't. But yeah, I don't see a problem with this. I mean, I think it makes good sense to put yield signs at the corner.
I think anytime you have a distance where people can start to generate some speed and not have to supposedly not worry at intersections, I think that creates a problem. And since we've had a couple injury accidents, which is usually not the case, usually in the city of Oshkosh that often, that it is concerning. So yeah, I would support a yield sign there too.
Yeah, usually the argument for not putting a yield sign is you don't want to put them where they're not warranted, because then people start not obeying them because they think, well, there's no reason for it. But I think in this case, it makes sense. And I know, I even talked a little, little bit with the residents about, the reasons for and against it. I said, let me do my research, but they do train you in driver's ed that you're supposed to slow down and look, even at uncontrolled intersections, and I know that's on your driver's test, so.
Are we going to put flags on the yield signs just to draw additional attention?
Yeah, I think for a while that would be a good idea.
Sure, we could do that.
That's new. That's a good point.
Anybody else? Call a roll.
Herman?
Aye.
Szynski?
Aye.
Schuster?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Oz?
Aye.
Carried 5-0.
Okay, item number 3, a request to designate bike lanes on Taft Avenue, both sides, from North Keller Street to North Sawyer Street. To current condition, no bike lanes.
Okay, this is a request from the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee, and Alexa's here. She's our staff representative from the Planning Department for the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. But as you know, the Pedestrian Bicycle Committee is working on implementing the Pedestrian and Bicycle Circulation Plan, which was adopted in 2011 by the Council and Plan Commission. When they put that plan together, they identified this as a priority connection, and they're included in that plan. What this would do, it would create bike lanes from North Kohler Street to North Sawyer Street, and then obviously we already have the bike lanes on Sawyer Street, so it would create a little bit of a network there or a connection to it. And then the plan calls for continuing on Taft east of Sawyer Street with Sign and Sharrow. There's not enough room there for bike lanes because there's parking allowed on that, or there's not enough room to allow parking and do the bike lanes on that side of Sawyer. So it would be a bike lane from North Kohler to Sawyer, and that would be signed and sharrowed from Sawyer, and then continue on to Campbell Road, and then from Campbell Road, it would be signed and sharrowed north on Campbell Road until you get to the Senior Center, which connects to the South Shore Riverwalk. This area at Taft, where we'd be designating bike lanes, is 48 feet wide, which would allow for the current parking, and then 2 11-foot driving lanes and 2 5-foot bike lanes. So it would not require the removal of any parking. I don't know if, Alexa, if you want to speak any more to that, or?
So at this point, none of this is implemented, right? So it's a start with Taft, and then the rest of what you just added will be implemented all at one time.
Right. What this would be is, we have Sawyer Street already, bike lanes, so this would connect from Kohler on, so it'd be bike lanes on Taft from Kohler to Sawyer. And then after we got that phase implemented, then we would look at signing and sharrowing from Sawyer over to Campbell Creek, and then working our way up Campbell Creek to create that connection. I don't think that we're going to be able to get this painted anymore this year because it's getting pretty late in the year. For traffic paint, we usually like it to be above 60 degrees. So we're probably not going to be able to do this till the spring, but we at least want to get it through the process.
Anybody else have anything on it?
Quick question. Again, related issue, but different area of town. The bike lane's down high. Parking lane immediately adjacent to them. Have we gotten any information about dooring incidents there? Because my fear is this runs right past West High School.
Right.
Is my fear, and we're going to get some conflicts.
Yeah, we haven't had any that I'm aware of.
Any worse than Main Street?
Well, but at least on Main Street, well, I guess you do have sidewalks there too, but still, I mean, it does put that carrot out there for kids to, or adults for that matter, to ride in the bike lane and have a door pop in front of them.
Right.
Densely parked street. So, I mean, it's certainly an area of concern. My other area of concern is, has anybody given any thought to the transition from Taft onto Sawyer? Eastbound on Taft, northbound onto Sawyer, because that's going to be a nightmare. For bike lanes. Again, my opinion.
You're
Sad
saying,
enough getting out of there with a car.
oh, okay, you're talking about, yeah,
Getting up to
Like
Sawyer, making a
Delta.
left.
On the left,
Right.
lost.
Right.
You got cars turning from left on the Taft.
Right.
Now you're going to have kind of a X maneuver over there.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, bikes have to abide by traffic laws, so if they abide by the stop sign and wait for traffic to clear, they should be able to make their maneuver like everybody else, I guess.
Yeah, I would think it'd probably be a little bit easier now with the way that Sawyer's laid out with the shared left turn lane there. And,
Well, no, but that's where the median is, if I'm not
I'm
mistaken.
trying to think where the boulevard is there.
Well, it's a split boulevard there, but
Right.
the boulevard kind of ends right there.
Right.
I think from that point south, the boulevard's.
No, well.
Or is it down a little?
There's a little bit of it there. as
Yeah.
you go
Just past Delta there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
Comes back
actually in
together.
between.
Yeah, you got two boulevards.
So,
But I agree with Mr. Becker as far as his concern of, the students at West. Hopefully, we don't have any issues that way. I know it's only during the school year, but that's a good 9 months out of the year.
well, you got Pollock.
You got Pollock Water Park and the use of Red Arrow Park and Pepper Field there. But again, we gotta get the plan implemented. I guess this is what was approved, and they want to move forward with it. Citizens need to be aware of more bicyclists in the city than we've had in the past.
I see her nodding behind you, Mr. Herman. Was that a topic of discussion?
Doors,
I'm sorry, what?
the car door.
Yeah, well, that and the traffic density that's going to be on Taft during school hours. And
I think they thought of it as a added amenity. It gives the students a chance to take a bike there safely.
Yeah, that's why in this area, part of the bike plan was to connect destinations, and with the high school there and Pollock, that's part of the reason they selected this route, is they thought it'd be a good route to get to those destinations to and from there. And the good thing about this is the road is wide enough where we don't have to remove any parking, because I know West students park there pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And then also, potentially with the pool.
Pool and the diamonds there and stuff.
Right.
Okay.
This is the intersection of Taft and Sawyer, so there's the boulevard there. So I guess if you were turning left there from Taft on to Sawyer, you'd probably want to get out to the median there and then, watch for traffic before you continue on. And the dooring, that is a concern with bike lanes anywhere, and some cities have put bike lanes on the inside of the parking lane. That's how some cities have tried to deal with it.
I think with an 8-foot parking lane and a 5-foot bicycle lane, there should be plenty of room there for people to avoid car doors. Because there's not a car out there that's 8 foot wide, that's gonna take up that entire width, and then another 5 feet. The bicycle riders are gonna have to pay attention, and I think there's gonna be enough room there. Anybody else have anything? Call the roll?
Aye.
Suzuki,
Aye.
Schuster,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Oz.
Aye.
Carried, 5-0.
Item 4, request to add a public comment period to the Traffic Review Advisory Board meeting.
This was, I think Mr. Becker had requested this at the last meeting, so I looked into it. As I mentioned the last meeting, some boards and commissions include a public comment period before or after the agenda items during their meeting. Some don't. They're pluses and minuses to whether you'd like to do that or not. If you decide you would like to do that, I kind of made a suggestion based on what some other boards have done. So I guess I can just read that quick. You guys can discuss whether you want to have that or not, but what most boards do is something similar to this. The public comment would be we would notify it like this: the board has adopted a public participation policy which provides 15 minutes for general public comment on a first-come, first-served basis. Citizens must provide their name and address and may speak on matters related to traffic within the authority of the board. Statements should be addressed to the board members and not to staff or other persons. Items that are on the agenda should be addressed at the time the item is read and not during the period for public comments. Statements are limited to 3 minutes, and citizens may only comment one time unless special permission is granted by the board. This is, I think this is the one I took from our traffic advisory board. This is exactly what we have, and it's based off of also what the council has.
I think it makes sense. Most of the folks that come to our meetings come because they got a notice that a topic is on there, but there may be some other times that people might want to make a comment on something that they've seen or a problem they're seeing in the city, so to have a public comment, I don't think it's going to add any length of time to our meetings, so just gives them another opportunity to speak to a board and commission.
Anybody else have any input?
Good idea.
Are you thinking you'd like to have it before or after the meeting? On the front end or the back end, I guess?
I would argue for the front end, only because then we can talk about it again and new agenda items, if there's something
Sure.
that comes out of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense. Have it in front.
Easy for the people, too.
Yeah, then they want to sit through maybe a lengthy meeting to address something that might take a couple minutes, and we can decide if we want to add that to our next board meeting. Because one thing we want to make sure we stress is that we can't take action from their comment the night of the comment.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, we can do that. Do we need to call roll?
No,
on it or no?
on the agenda. is
Yeah,
it? You vote?
agenda
Vote
item.
on it.
Yeah, call a roll.
Herman,
Aye.
Lizinski,
Aye.
Schuster,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Oz.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0.
Okay, item number 5, a request for no parking on Court Street, both sides, from CP Avenue to the Fox River. The current condition is no parking west side from 260 feet south of CP Avenue to the Fox River.
Basically, this is a department request to clean up an old ordinance we had. I guess this hasn't been cleaned up probably since the leach has been there, but when we finished the Riverside parking lot and we were cleaning up some of the signage there, and this is an old ordinance. Technically, I don't think you would want to park in this area, but we wanted to make sure that it was clear that there shouldn't be parking allowed there. It's basically the section right in front of the Leach Amphitheater where the entrance is. And it's heavily used for pedestrian access to the Leach, and it really isn't conducive to parking. But with the current ordinance, I guess you could park on part of it.
They wouldn't let you through to park there anyway, would they?
Sometimes it's blocked off
Yeah, I mean,
if they have an
when there's
event,
an event,
yeah.
Anybody have anything on this? Call a roll.
Herman,
Aye.
Lizinski,
Aye.
Schuster,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Oz.
Aye.
Carried 5-0.
And number 6, a request for no parking in the alley adjacent to the Oshkosh Convention Center, both sides from CP Avenue to the Fox River. The current condition is no parking in the alley adjacent to the Oshkosh Convention Center, east side from CP Avenue to 291 feet south. No parking west side from the alley adjacent to the Oshkosh Convention Center from CP Avenue to 102 feet south.
So this is another old ordinance we're trying to clean up in relation to that parking lot. This obviously must have been put in place probably before the convention center was rebuilt. So we just wanted to put it on the books that there shouldn't be parking allowed in that alley that's used for the loading docks, and it's also used for access to the parking lot. I haven't seen anybody park in there, but technically the way the ordinance reads, you could park there.
I actually have seen people park
Have you?
there.
Okay.
It's the way I frequently take home at night, and which goes to my question, loading and unloading. I mean, it's obviously a loading area and an unloading area. So my point, or my question ultimately is, does it make more sense for it to be no stopping, standing, waiting, or no parking?
Or make it a
A
loading.
loading zone, yeah. I
Because you
mean,
got a lot of convention goers that are setting up booths or
Right.
tables. Maybe don't want to be in the parking lot right away, but they want to be there. Would it make any sense to make that, instead of no parking, just make it a loading and unloading zone 15 minutes or something like that, short term?
We could, that alley is, it's used as the access for their trucks to get to their
Right.
docks.
Yeah.
So I don't think we would want parking in that part, or I guess the only part that we would want maybe consider a loading, unloading is by the doors to the
Yeah, that back
convention
entrance
center.
there,
Yeah, they got an entrance there, but I don't think you'd want any parking or loading all the way past the loading dock.
Probably not. I mean, but you're looking at the whole section as being
Right.
no parking.
And,
I guess, people
My
want
thoughts
to
is-
stop for 50 minutes to unload something.
Yeah, I mean, if
nobody's
you're
gonna write them a
gonna, if
ticket.
you're gonna post it no parking, I mean, that's not gonna stop people from, if they gotta pull up and unload a, a tote full of stuff for whatever
Yeah.
event,
until the big truck comes, that's got to, I mean, it can't get to the loading dock, I guess is what I'm trying to do. Because if we're truly trying to solve a problem, I think we should solve the problem and not give an opt-out, potentially. Again,
so
I see
what,
the problem.
what are you saying, loading zone or just no parking period?
I'm actually, I would advocate for no stopping, standing, waiting, because, again, it's foreseeable that somebody does exactly what you speculate.
Yeah.
And stops there to, at one of the various events, to load or unload a tote or, whatever, and then 15-foot wide truck has to get through there.
Better not be.
You get my point, because that's narrow
Yeah.
to begin with. If you put a car in there, you ain't getting anything up or down that alley. It's more than 6 or 8 feet wide. Do we have actually an aerial?
Yeah, I can bring that up quick.
I mean, you're probably gonna make, you could easily make a sign that says no parking, like you said, no parking, standing, whatever.
There are other places in town.
Yeah.
It ain't very wide.
No, it's not.
Well, they got a very current, view of this on Google Maps. It's a brand new parking lot.
So, yeah, we're talking about,
Probably what? 20,
we're talking about this alley here.
Striped, so there must be room for vehicles to
yeah, I
drive.
was gonna say,
Yeah.
probably 20 feet.
Yeah.
But then I guess, again, to my point, if somebody's actually parked
Well, and
along the building.
And my recollection from different things I've been at down, like for when we do our pre-election meetings, we do it at the convention center. People actually, they can literally back their vehicles right up to those back doors, because that sidewalk is all sloped, and so they literally just pull up in there. So if you mark everything, no stopping, standing, or waiting on the roadway itself, still wouldn't prevent the people from, but they're at least out of the
throughway.
because right here, there's a truck backed right up to those doors.
Yep.
at that, yep.
Pictures there.
So, I mean, if you mark the actual roadway, no stopping, standing, or waiting, I think we got it covered. Because the caterers and stuff, they're gonna back right up to that, in that corner. And I actually think there's a narrow overhead door there.
There is.
So, I mean, it's there for a purpose, so you're not gonna be preventing them from doing that either.
And they need that anyways. They need to be able to pull in there, back up,
Yeah.
unload, and if there's some vendors that are setting up a booth, they probably have enough room to pull up, like you say, to at least get their stuff inside the door and go from there.
what we could do is no parking past like where the loading dock is, and then we could do like a loading zone, for the last portion of it there. I think that's what you're saying you'd prefer, something like that?
Well, and again, I don't want to jam up the alley with somebody, just because somebody parked there.
Right.
Even for,
Yeah,
it's all about the time.
yeah, because if we restrict any type of stopping on the roadway, there's still plenty of little alcoves where people can get their vehicles in to get off the beaten path. And, yeah, I guess I'm open for anything, just let's,
So you're thinking more of no parking for part of it and then loading zone
I
for
would
the
just,
part by
I would
the
just
river?
post the whole thing, no stopping,
Yeah,
sitting, or waiting.
I think
All the way
Dan's
through.
got it.
Yeah,
Instead of
because-
just saying no parking, put
Yeah,
standing.
I mean, any of the actual throughways, I mean, the parking lot is striped for a reason to park, and then let's just keep that section of roadway clear of vehicles.
Okay.
So move to amend number 6 to a request for no parking, stopping, standing, waiting in the alley adjacent, blah, 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 blah.
I'll second that.
Okay, why don't we call the roll on the amendment?
Herman,
Aye.
Szynski,
Aye.
Schuster,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Oz,
Aye.
carried 5-0.
Okay, so now, we're just gonna read no stopping, standing, or waiting versus no parking, right? Okay. Any further discussion on it? Call the roll on the item as amended, please.
Herman,
Aye.
Aye.
Schuster,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Oz,
Aye.
carried 5-0.
Okay, staff statements.
Okay, at the last meeting, Mr. Becker inquired about the signage in Menominee Park during the winter. I was just gonna report, and I know I had emailed him and let him know, but, just in case anybody else wanted to follow up on it, they do remove the temporary traffic control signs located in driving lanes in the off-season, but those attached to permanent poles remain. So I think that answered the question. And then we have a number of, when we're working on putting our parking restrictions into our GIS system. And when we did that, I know we noticed a lot of parking ordinances that were outdated. For instance, on Main Street, since we reconstructed that, we need to clean up some of the ordinances. So what I'm going to try to do is bring that all as one item to a future meeting. I was hoping maybe November, but I don't know if we'll get it done by then. But there's a number of ordinances that need to be cleaned up, so I'll try to get those all in a group together, and it'll be easier for council too. I guess we've done that once before my time, when we found a bunch of them that needed to be cleaned up. So I think that's all I had.
Okay, anybody have anything for a future meeting, or?
Yeah, I want to bring up about the Sawyer Witsel, if you're going south on Sawyer through Witsel. I had an accident myself, and I noticed a couple other accidents that you got that bike lane on the right-hand side, and people are trying to drive through to make a right turn, and it's not wide enough. Like the accident I had, somebody just scraped my mirror, so I mean, I didn't report it. As an accident, I was able to buff it up, and I don't know if other people report it either, but I've seen other people get their cars scraped because it's too narrow to drive through for most vehicles, and so they're scraping the person that's in the lane to go south.
So you're heading,
You go
okay,
south, it's like a straight right turn lane, then they got the bike lane right along the curb.
right,
People are still trying to they're going into the bike lane and driving as it's a traffic lane to make the right turn instead of going in the lane and waiting in line. And like I said, it's not really wide, it's not wide enough for a lot of vehicles. Like I said, I've had my vehicle scraped, and I've seen a couple others scraped, You know, like I said, I didn't report it as an accident.
So people are going around on the right and utilizing the bike lane to try to get around you.
Yeah. Whereas, like I said, it's a straight right turn.
I don't know how you're gonna stop that. People
Well, I
are
mean,
gonna
maybe
do
like
stupid
a different
things.
kind of signage or something, to make people aware, more aware. So I don't know if you could add another sign there, like I said, I've seen like 6 incidents that were at least close calls. Like I said, 3 of them at least were accidents.
Tim brings up a good point, but state law also says you got to get as far to the right as you can when you make a right-hand turn. It's just the matter of, is there enough room for me to get up there? And, people make the wrong judgment at that point. You'd have to actually make that white line solid all the way to the corner, which then wouldn't allow people to make that slide to the right, to make the right-hand turn. So I think it's just an unintended, unnecessary evil of bike lanes, unfortunately. I don't know if there's a solution to the problem.
Yeah, I can't think of a good solution to that. I know that.
know if, whatever kind of signs you have, if, like I said, make people aware that that's not a traffic lane.
But
Maybe a line, maybe a sign where you have the lane alignments, like some,
But it is actually a traffic lane when you get close enough to the intersection.
no, it's not a traffic lane.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it has to
With,
be.
yeah, with the dashed white line, it becomes a traffic lane as you get to, it's
I think
probably-
the traffic lane is straight right, and you have to go around the bikes. You got the bike lane here, and then the right turn lane is here.
I'm well aware of that, but by law, you've got to get closer to the curb to make that right-hand turn, and the solid white line disappears as you approach the corner, which allows people to cross it. It just becomes the matter of
Yeah,
not being able to make
Perception
that.
and-
Yeah,
and basically, yeah, that dotted line starts north of Taco John's, so there's a pretty good distance there where, and all of a sudden, it becomes a shared lane. And, yeah, and I don't know how you're gonna stop people from trying to squeeze through. I mean,
Yeah, with the dotted line, what that means is basically that cars are supposed to yield to
Yeah.
bikes, but
yeah,
you're kind of sharing the lane at that point.
yeah.
Like I said, if you're in the straight driving lane, then it's not really wide enough for a traffic lane, the bike lane part.
Well, maybe just
Well,
check the width there to
The-
make sure that.
The
It's like
problem,
11-foot
the
lane.
thing is, the way that the lane is configured, it's straight or right turn. The dotted line technically isn't there for the intersection to turn right. They put that there to allow traffic to turn right across the bike lane to get into Taco John's. Because you technically don't need to use that section to make your right turn. So people are just, I mean, can you make that a solid line from, just short of the intersection? Because traffic doesn't need that.
talking about turning into Taco John's or turning?
No, just when you get closer to the intersection. I mean, you need a broken line to legally allow the traffic to turn across that bike lane for Taco John's. But as you get up to the intersection, you really don't need that because the vehicles can come straight out and make the right turn. I don't know.
I wasn't really sure, but like I said, I seen, like I said, like a half dozen incidents there, and I didn't know if we could come up with a better signage or not.
Again, I don't know if there's a solution. It's just,
Yeah, it's common sense. I mean, people just need to,
am I too wide to get through that spot?
yeah. If somebody's gonna try squeezing through, they're gonna do it regardless of how it's signed or anything else. Because they're just ignoring the basics of driving.
Physics?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, I'll look at it, but yeah, I don't know that there's anything we're going to be able to do.
Yeah,
But
like I say, I mean, a lot of people aren't going to report it because you're just getting like a scrape. It's not, like a significant damage, unless you got like a.
Well, and the thing is, if somebody's gonna do that, then it should be, maybe you should report it. If you can get their plate, report it, because that person made an illegal pass on the right. Basically, I mean, that's. That's why I say if you had a solid line there, then you could really enforce that, because then they have no business going around you. Yeah, take a look at that and see.
okay. I did think of one other thing I just want to mention. The The road diet on Murdock, so far I've gotten mostly positive comments on it. People seem to like it. But I just wanted to let the board know, because we talked about it. We did get the signals are actuated now at Murdock in Wisconsin, and we have the left turn arrows on Murdock. So we just finished that last week.
Yeah, I saw it over the weekend.
Yeah, the only concern, I got one phone call from a citizen saying when they come around the roundabout going west, and they're in the inside part of that roundabout, they have a
You
very
can't get-
short opportunity
Get to the right lane to go
get
straight.
to the right lane, and if there's traffic there, now
I-
they're stuck and they're stopping.
I deal with it every morning at 6:30.
I don't know if there's any other, if we could put a sign back a ways, lane shift ahead,
We
something like
we
that.
have one that's right kind of in front of, close where the Chinese restaurant is,
Okay.
that shows, that the one lane's turning into left turn only.
Okay. But she asked if something could be done before the roundabout, but I think that's too far
Yeah.
away from what is happening. But she was hoping that somehow we could, she was thinking even to say, don't go in that center lane, to go through the roundabout, but that's gonna back up traffic even more.
Well, does it make sense to put something to the effect of westbound through traffic, Murdock, right lane only?
Yeah, see,
Something like that.
and the problem is, and it's not so much for the traffic that's driving west on Murdock prior to the roundabout, it's the northbound traffic on Jackson, because you're committed to that inside lane
That's true.
Yeah.
to go around the roundabout, and then all of a sudden you come out of the roundabout, you're stuck in that center lane. That's what I put up with every morning. And I've always got to, I come through, there's nothing there, and all of a sudden, as I go to make my lane change, there's somebody right next to me on the right, because they
Jackson.
either came from Jackson or were on Murdock, and were in the right lane, and they caught up to me, and every day, so you deal with it. I mean, I haven't run anybody over yet, so.
It's getting a little easier too as people have gotten used to it.
Yeah.
The first week or two, I noticed it was more, because
I-
people were in that lane, they're like, oops, I gotta get over, but now that they're getting more used to it,
Stay out of it anyway.
Yeah, people definitely, and I gotta say that the speeds are way down. I mean, it used to be 40 to 45 miles an hour in either one of the lanes. Now, it's a steady 35 max, so having a single lane is really helping.
We got
I
any
think.
complaints from any of the businesses along there? There was a couple that were concerned about it.
I know
no,
that there's been the car wash there next to Dairy Queen and stuff. It makes it kind of challenging to get out of there, but they haven't really gone into great detail. I just, I heard comments, but,
yeah, actually, one of the businesses, actually said he thought it was working better than he thought, but that was, Mr. Carroll's down on the end there.
You had mentioned a while back, to me at least, I don't know if it's something you want to bring up to this, about 9th Street, looking at a road diet.
I have gotten that request a few times from, I got at least one resident's call, and I know I've got at least 2 police officers that are interested in that.
Okay.
I'd be in favor of it too. I live on 9th, and a lot of times I avoid it and take the back way of Osborne and around if I'm,
Well, part of it is some of it's allows parking, some doesn't allow parking, and it gets kind of confusing to whether, can you be in the right lane, can you not be in the right lane? So I'm just wondering if maybe now's the time with winter to take a little look at that before we get into
and what type of
spring.
road diet are you thinking?
Well, it would probably be like we have on
Green light.
Murdock now.
Isn't the traffic
Just
count a
from-
little too high to do that?
I don't know, I mean, from Knapp eastward, it's one lane in each
Well, we got
direction
10,000
with
cars a day
parking.
on Murdock. Do we have that many or more on 9th?
But
I
at
don't
least-
know.
But at least on 9th, because it isn't striped as a 4-lane road, but it can be used as a 4-lane road, and so people utilize it like that. So you
Well, and
got-
that's what some of the people are saying. Should we stripe it so that it is 4 lanes, so people are in the right lane? Because
Yeah,
if there's an accident,
I could
who's at
see doing
fault?
that.
You know,
I could
should
see
we
doing
be
that.
So I think we need to take a look at
'Cause I
9th Street
can't
as a
tell you the last-
whole,
I-
which way,
Yeah.
and maybe it's up to a certain point, because, you have parts of it's residential, parts of it's business, parts multi-use,
Yeah,
mixed
'cause
use.
up until you get to, Knapp Street,
It's one lane in each
Yeah.
direction with parking. Like, 'cause
Yeah,
I
I
live
mean-
between Knapp and Ohio.
yeah.
So I just think you had mentioned, or I mentioned to you, and you mentioned it back, that there's been some interest in looking at that, so maybe that's
Yeah.
during the winter months, that would be a good time to take a look at.
Winter months, it's really bad, you got snow on
Well,
the
yeah,
right-hand lane.
right. No, but at least it gives us time before we get back in the spring, and when if we're gonna make some changes in painting and striping and whatever, that we could do that come March, April, or whenever it warms up enough.
Yeah, I can start looking into it.
I think that'd be something to look at.
Yeah, on the overhead signal at Jackson and Division facing southbound, I don't know if that light is, the green light is bad. You can't see it. I mean, you get the red's bright, and at first I thought maybe the actual overhead was swung, so you're catching a bad angle of it, but it didn't look like it was moved. It just, that green light is not visible during the daytime.
Okay. And that's the southbound on,
Southbound on Jackson.
Jackson at Division.
Division, yeah.
oh, okay, Marlene said somebody's already called on that, and
Why?
our electrical supervisor's looking into
Okay.
it.
Be good.
It's been like that for quite a while, and I meant to bring it up 2 meetings ago, and I forgot, and I'm meaning to email you, and I forget to do that, and so,
So someone must have called recently. then.
Yes, yes,
okay.
this morning.
Oh, okay, good
Perfect
timing.
timing.
I suppose this is a little more to the parking utility side than traffic. Any update on, can we get an update on where the parking study goes?
Sure.
Because that could deal with some parking on Main Street and stuff like that.
Yep, they're, I missed the call because I was off on Friday, but we have a call with them every other week. They're getting pretty far along. They have broken the study down into zones, and they've done some parking utilization studies at different times of the day to see what the parking utilization rates were in the parking lots and on street parking. And then they've also put together numbers for capacity, looking at both the public and private parking that's available. So they're pretty far down that line to see what's available. Basically, they were looking at the demand and the capacity at different times of the day. So they have some preliminary stuff put together, and then I believe towards the end of this month, beginning of end of October, beginning of November, they'll be meeting with the internal committee we have put together just to go over their preliminary drafts of what they're thinking to make sure they're on the right track. And then they'd put the finishing touches on it, and then they would have it to council. Originally, we were thinking December. It's probably going to be January because there's only one council meeting in December. But there'll be another public stakeholder meeting towards the end of the year. Where they'll go over their recommendations. So they got their draft pretty far along. And then the financing of the parking utility is something that they're still working on. So they wanted to do the supply-demand first, and then they're also working on the
I guess
finance.
for this committee, it'd just be if there would be any recommendations to change on-street parking
Right.
that would affect this committee. You know, Tim and I serve on the parking utility, so we'll get the parking lot report side of it, but
Right. That's possible. I know they're considering that as part of their inventory. And then also the parking regulations, whether it be 2-hour parking. There might be some recommendations for that. And I know one of the things I'm guessing they might recommend is a little more, making our public parking a little more marketable or visible, some type of signage, or to show where public parking is. Ours isn't the best right now. So I don't know if that will include on-street, but for off-street, I think that's something they might come up with.
Anybody else got anything? A motion to
Move to
adjourn.
adjourn?
second?
All in favor?
Aye.